duendes, sirena, laman-lupa, aswang, vampires, tikbalang, disappearances, alternative world, government secrets, aliens, angels, demons, mixed races, ghosts, unusual experiences, and really unexplained situations from real life people. Raw stories, all translated to English from Filipinos all around the world. Welcome to Filipino English Horror Stories. Hello, good morning, good evening to whoever you guys are. This is Bebs again. Welcome for another episode here in Filipino English Horror Stories. Tonight, or today, or what time is it anyway? Today, let's just use the word today. Today we have three stories. This one it came from Luzon. So if you guys are not from the Philippines, you're not familiar with what's Luzon. Luzon is one of the major pulo. How do I say pulo in English? Continent? Should I say continent? Big islands. You know, the Philippines, it's it's composed of multiple islands, a lot of islands, right? But there are really big major islands. We have three of them. We call it Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. Now, the stories that I'm gonna tell you guys today all came from senders from Luzon, and I also did a couple of research on them. So I wanted to talk about a potential topic that would be related to some of these stories as well. Could be something that is unexplainable or is already does exist, but it's just quite different from the reality that we are used to. So let's jump into the first story. This story is titled Nights in Ermita. So it's a real story of a person who used to work in one of the grimy nights in Manila. So let's listen to the story. I actually called it Nights in Ermita myself, so let's just call it that. Grab your coffee for the first story for today. Ermita at night, like neon lights bleeding into grimy streets. Shadows playing tricks on your mind. Years under those signs, I felt like a ghost myself. Now safe and sound, those memories still creep back, especially one that chills me to the bone. I was a prostitute working at night in Manila. They call us walkers because we used to work at the streets and work at night, just walking and getting some clients along the way. Fear was a constant companion since we may never know when police would be in our tails, or met a hard, abusive client, or even get another punch in the gut after a session. This night, though, it felt different. A cold dread and seeped into my bones. It's like a darkness, uncontrollable. I felt like second unconscious doubt before I started my shift. But as the usual days, I still continue because we need to live. I need to feed myself. I remember that night in the dark alley, while I was smoking and taking a break, a man emerged from the dark. No customer, this one. He smelled different, metallic, and unnatural. I called out and asked if he's here for a break and for a woman, and said I was available, but he didn't respond. I felt scared at that time, but even before I could react, his hands clamped down on me. It was cold and lifeless, like he jumped out on me in an instant. 1 feet away a moment, and a blink of an eye, he's on top of me. I bumped my head in the cold street cement. It hurts, but I didn't thought of it, since panic choked me at that time. But then things got strange. He wasn't after my body. He lunged for a locket, hidden beneath my dress, a reminder of a secret I so dearly protect. It knew what's inside. A growl ripped from his throat, more beast-like than a man, and his eyes seemed to burn yellowish red in the gloom. I know it wouldn't make sense. He has this unusual eyes, like a cat's. It was reflecting the nearby lights. Can't be so sure what color his hair, if it's dyed or brown or black. We have a lot of foreigners in this place. But I saw those teeth, and he's salivating too. And I swear, I saw some moving veins in his face, like they are pulsating. Something snapped inside me. Maybe fear, maybe a flicker of my old secret. Krista was a name I bury, but a name I once cherished. It was my beacon of hope. I elbowed him with all my might, the sound echoing in the silent street. He stumbled back. He was surprised, and that was my chance. I ran. I didn't look back. I just ran for my life. The city was a blur of alleys and trash, and every breath a prayer I mutter. I found a refuge in a dimly lit chapel. The scent of incense, a balm to my terror. I remembered I once curled in a pew. I clutched the locket. Tears was blurring my vision. Maybe the stories were true about the creatures of the night that were drawn to the darkness that we carry. But that night I survived. Krista, the mistake I thought I made, but it was a blessing I lost. A tiny ember of hope. But I realized it too late. You see, the locket that the man smelled and reacted to has a patch of flampien, or a diaper used by my premature baby. I was once a mother. I gave birth to a premature child, whom, and due to the nature of my work before, I didn't know who was the father. I slept with 4 to 5 men in a day just to earn a living. I hated it, but the day I gave birth to my beloved, I saw that small, fragile child. She was so skinny. I named her Krista. I gave birth alone, and since I'm not prepared at all, I only have one blanket made of flour sack, and that I always used to wrap around the small child. She was incubated for weeks, but died after we were dismissed from the hospital. I took her body, once full of warmth, in a day was full of coldness and paleness. I was so devastated, and as much as I hate to say this, I trust my identity is protected anyway. I felt relieved because I knew it would be hard to tend to a small sickly child, but I also felt disgusted, knowing I was relieved upon seeing her small, lifeless body next to me. I cried, both hatred over myself and sadness from this sudden death. I changed my apartment and buried her outside my garden, to which I am currently staying now. No priest, no nothing. One thing I kept was a small piece of her clothing that I used to wrap around her. The flour sack. It smelled like her, and I kept it near me every day. A reminder to always be responsible, have protection, and save more to end that horrible life. Now, whenever I see a lost girl on those streets, I remember that night, the fight for survival. I remember myself, and I even feel disgusted whenever I remember Krista, the baby I lost. I can't change my past, but maybe, just maybe, I can help someone else find their own light. Please never go to Manila with the promise of fake employment from someone you never knew. Please never end up selling your body to survive. But most of all, please don't share any intimate moments with a stranger you won't promise your life with. Don't do it without contraceptives nor protection. And please, if ever you get pregnant, don't drink, don't smoke. It will ruin your child. They are pure souls. They deserve someone better. So if you are given that blessing, work hard to be deserving of them. Today, I work as a janitress, and I am not ashamed. I saved a few, and I hope someday I get to transfer her remains somewhere worthy of an angel she is. I am ashamed, but I was so financially poor. I am useless before, but not now. I am planning to find her remains this end of the year, to get it to a funeral home to be incinerated. I want to keep her ashes with me everywhere I go. I want to do better every time I remember her. And that oddly scary encounter made me realize the one thing that keeps me going was always with me all along. That was a nice story. Going to think about it, it just swept from a scary encounter of a man in the dark alley to a sad, like, backstory. It was so sad. So she was a prostitute in Manila. It's actually not surprising though, because as a Filipino myself, I've seen them. Yes, they are called walkers. I've heard about it, and they are rampant because, as what she said, you should not go to Manila without a promise of a proper employment. I did heard about people going to Manila because they think Manila is like the apple of the eye. Manila is the center of the Philippines. When you go to Manila, you will surely be able to find a job that pays well, and you will be out from being poor, which is the other way around. Usually, still, people with really bad intentions still target people in the province area. And of course, especially girls who are naive and innocent and was always thinking Manila, cities like Manila is always something to, like a dream. It's a light, a beacon of hope for those people that are struggling in the province. But I tell you, if you are in the province and people in the Manila would say Manila is better, no, it's the other way around. Manila is like, it's great, it's beautiful, but it's just, for me, it's so suffocating. I'm not the city type of person. I always goes back to the province, and I mind you, I was born in a province. Though I was born in a small city, it's more of like a rural area type than like what Manila is. But overall, wouldn't really agree with people saying that Manila is better than the province, because province is surely a place where there's a lot of trees. Silence is better than a very suffocating, hard to breathe, and very noisy city. So that's just for me though, because we all have different perspective. But let me know what you think. So that's the first story. So it's more of like a backstory of a woman who was a prostitute, and she did mention like a guy who has like cat's eye and like veins was pulsating. So I kind of imagine it's like veins moving in his face. So it's like I remember thinking of like an episode of a movie that has the same description as well. So can't really say it's fake, it's false, but I pulled this out. It's story coming from someone who claim it to be a real life account. So let's just believe her for that, and kudos for her for changing her life officially. You don't really have to sell your body to earn a lot, because doing better and doing what's right is even better, and even like your pride would really be there. I mean, pride can't really feed you. I know no hurt or judgment to those people that don't have really other choice but to be a prostitute. But I mean, if you still have choice, then you choose the better choice, even though that choice is not that promising compared to the other one, which is, of course, you would always think, why not do this instead? Because I'll be getting a lot of money, but sooner or later, it's gonna bite you back. So good for this girl. Second story we have, I titled this one as Organ Kidnappers of Manila in the 90s. I also heard the same, like I've read the same story in Reddit before, but I can't find the link anymore. So this story is also in Manila, in the 90s. So it was at the heat of the moment when you probably, if you're Filipino, you would know that we hate the white van, because we were told by our parents that white vans, if you saw any white vans in the street, then don't go near it because it could be kidnappers. We have that mindset, and we've had those, we have a reason because those situations, cases actually happened before. And this is one of those accounts, claimed real true story. Let's listen to the second story. Again, it's called Oregon Kidnappers of Manila in the 90s. The Manila heat in the 90s wasn't just oppressive, it carried a constant undercurrent of unease. Whispers of white vans and Oregon snatchers were as common as jeepney horns. Little did I know, at 16, I'd become a target in a far more horrifying game. It was a sluggish afternoon, like it was really hot. Walking home with my best friend Bea, I was a symphony of scraped knees and daydreams. Lost in conversation, we didn't see the red Toyota van pull up until it was beside us. Wait, it says white vans, but this person says it was a red Toyota van that tried to pull her in. So it's not just the white vans, people. You also have to be afraid of red Toyota vans. Anyway, continuing. A man, his smile was unnaturally wide, leaned out. Hey there, Maya, isn't that you? Your tita needs you. Hop in. We'll give you a ride. Alarm bells clanging in my head. My tita never sent strangers for me. Reacting with lightning speed, Bea grabbed my arm and yanked me back. Who are you? She spat. Her voice was laced with defiance. The smile on the man's face melted into a sneer. He muttered something under his breath and slammed the van door shut and sped away, leaving a cloud of dust and terror in his wake. I saw a man that has a medical devices inside. I know at my age he looked like a doctor. We stood there, legs like jelly, hearts hammering like a frantic rhythm against our ribs. Tears welled in my eyes. A mix of fear and relief. We shouldn't have been targets, not in broad daylight, not with a witness. But the whispers were true, and the fear that had always simmered beneath the surface boiled over. Bea, ever resourceful, sneered me towards Aling Nina's sari-sari store. The kind owner, her eyes filled with concern, ushered us inside. We stammered out a story. Voices were trembling. The alert went out and the police arrived, but the van and the men vanished like ghosts. The red Toyota became a chilling symbol of a danger we couldn't fully grasp. For me, it was a brutal awakening. The innocent girl walking home that day was gone. Years later, a news report sent a jolt through me. A wealthy socialite in Europe had been arrested for cannibalism. The report mentioned a dark web ring specializing in acquisitions. A cold dread washed over me. The doctor who checked us at the van, it was surely a doctor. The way his eyes lingered on us, it all clicked into place. They weren't after organs. They were after the innocents. The younger and cleaner, the better. A horrifying black market catering to the sickest desires, hidden beneath whispers of organ theft. I may have escaped that day, but the memory remains a reminder of the darkness that hides among us. A world where children are not stolen for labor, but for a far more grotesque purpose. So I got old and still single, but my niece and nephews are always scolded by me to never go out the streets alone and never stay outside without a strong reason to be out. The world sure is scary. Yeah, it is. So basically, this is not a story about horror, ghost, tikbalang, aswang whatsoever, but it's a story, real life story of someone who was almost kidnapped. And I did hear the same story from my parents before, like white vans. It's just kind of funny because she started with the story about white vans, but then she ended up talking about the red Toyota van that actually was the culprit for her experience. It's not a white van, but it's a red Toyota van. Regardless of what color it is and what brand it is, as long as someone like a four-wheeled vehicle stopped in front of you in the middle of the streets, just run. Don't look back, just run. I don't know if it's someone who was just there to ask questions, but just run. That's the reason why I homeschooled my child, because I just have those like overthinking moments where I thought of like, what if this would happen? What if that would happen? You know? And because it really did happen, and there are like real life accounts to that, and this is one of them. Talking about cannibalism, though, I mean, I did my research and I realized that there was actually people that are really cannibal in the Philippines, and they were tagged as aswang. But I know for a fact that cannibalism did exist, so I just wanted to read some of those stories for you guys. This is coming from Filipino. It's a website that it's in Filipino.net. So basically, they talk about 80 facts about Filipinos. And this is one of those facts, grotesque facts that I actually found in the internet. There are actually Filipinos that are cannibal, and they were like in jail for that. And these are really disgusting real life stories. The first one was the Amil brothers. They have been detained by local police, and they actually killed their ailing mother, thinking that it's a way for their ailing mother to like get out of this, how do I say this, bad spirits that are inside of her. Because that's crazy, right? Three brothers butchered their own mother to death in February 2014, and they devoured her corpse. The really crazy about this is that they devoured her, even though they know that they think she has a bad spirits inside her. Just like eating those bad spirits with you, right? But I think these three brothers is probably just crazy. Sometimes people might have thought that they are probably aswang. That's the reason why they killed their mother and ate her themselves. But I think it could be something even deeper. It could have been like a mental problem. Yeah. Actually, there was like a witness account. He was called Dante. I mean, the three guys is Dante, 35, the older brother. The second brother was Paroy, it's 21 years old, and the youngest brother was called Ibrahim, 18 years old. They are all Moros hailing from Ampatuan town in Maguindanao. So this happened in Maguindanao. So they killed their 56-year-old mother, Musala, and they feasted on her body as if they were wild animals. And they didn't cook her. I tell you, they ate her whole. I mean, pieces to pieces, raw. Can you imagine that? So if you're going to think about it, this could have been the reason why people thought they were like aswang in the Philippines. If you're going to think about it scientifically, I mean, there are still people out there that are cannibals. The second one was it's called Cannibal, that was last posted in the Deseret News in December 11, 1901. It was the story of Raimundo Fonte. He was a tuba gatherer. So if you don't know what tuba is a wine that came from the coconut. So he was a wine gatherer, coconut wine gatherer from Capiz. Okay, so Capiz is the folkloric haven of aswangs. If you don't know, it's a place in the Philippines where people believe that aswangs live. And this is actually a real life story. Raimundo Fonte killed his own co-worker. The name is Benliro Liberato, with an oar, after he discovered that the person slept in his boat on December 1900 without his permission. Pretty much very shallow reasoning there. Pretty much sure this Raimundo Fonte, who killed his co-worker and ate him is not an aswang but could have been mentally ill. But we may never know they're not mentally ill, but they were just like, this is just how they are. They eat people. And because it's something that we do not really accept socially, that we believe, killing our own kind is not valid while we kill other kinds is valid. Kind of crazy, right? So sometimes I often thought, maybe aswang is just a different species, or they could have been a different tribe that believed in equality. So if we humans can kill animals to survive, then why not them kill humans as well, like them to survive, right? Or kill humans that are not like them to survive. So it all makes sense. If you're going to think about it a scientific way, swangs or those vampires or species that are not like us that feed on us, it could be scientifically possible, biologically possible, because I mean, in the food chain, like a bird eats the small fish, and that bird could also be eaten by a bigger predator, right? And it all makes sense. We could have been just part of the food chain by some different species. It's just that we are more technologically wise, or should I say, we have the leverage for now because we also have like most of the entire earth. We somehow have been living in most of the earth surface, so they're probably out there hiding in a different world. We may never know, but that's the reason why we have this podcast, for us to discover if they're really true, and talk about experiences from humans like us, other people that could have experienced unusual situations that are raw and real. So that's the second story. Raimundo Fonte happened December 11 in 1901. So he actually confessed that he killed and ate the intestines, ears, eyes, and nose of the body of Liberato. That's so scary. Also, another third cannibalism, since we've talked about, people that are aswang like in the second story. I also wanted to mention the third story that are known to be in the Philippines as a real cannibalism case. It's the Eladio Baole or Baole story. It was about a wedding. Weddings are supposed to be remembered, right, as a joyous occasion. And solely wedding is all about wedding guests experiencing what the menu is and seeing the beautiful, couples enjoying and celebrating this wonderful and joyous occasion, right? The incident took place in the town of Nara, Palawan. I've heard about this, that an entire village celebrated, a wedding, and they have guests coming in, and the guest ate the menu because of course it was celebration, and there should Filipinos always have something to eat on the table if there's a celebration. And it happened that the menu actually came from a real human. So the meat came from a real human. This happened in July 17 of 2004. The bride's father, Eladio Baule, became angry after his cousin, Benji Ganay, accidentally touched the bride's bottom during the dance. Oh, okay. So the cousin touched the bride's bottom, like, the butt. So with the help of his son, Gerald, the nephew of the Sabtuare, picked, and another cousin, Juni Buyut, they took him to a secluded area and they hacked him to death. And then they roasted his body with kerosene and coconut leaves. After sampling their creation, they then brought the victim's roasted remains back to the party and served it to the unwitting guests. Now, this is a great example of do not eat food, even if it's just a occasion or restaurants. I think that's also one of the reasons why I have trust issues. I don't really like eating other people preparing my food because I always thought of this story, and here it is. It's really true. It's been posted in the news, and after this shocking incident, international coverage because of its bizarre nature. The Naras tourism suffered as a result of the townspeople being labeled as cannibals. I think it just happened with that family, and it's just because of that the tourism really suffered. But if it were me, I can't really blame the people that wanted to visit the Palawan Nara, Barangay Nara, Palawan, because thinking back, what if you angered one of those people and then they realize, we're gonna have a souped Bev's small girl for dinner today. That's that's not comforting. We still have a couple of stories here, like Efren Mastedios, Norberto Manero, and some couple rare occasions of people eating other people for snacks in the Philippines. And it happened. And most of them actually have mental issues. Some of them believe it was a part of the rituals. They have their own reasons. But socially, it's not accepted. So that's one thing that I just wanted to point out. That aswangs could just been tribes or species that we don't know of that exist that feeds on us as their food the way we feed on our beefsteak that came from a real cow, like a living cow. That actually makes sense. The world sure is really scary. I take that word from the second story. Third and last story for today, we have a story. I actually called or titled this one as a knock knock word of God modus operandi. So I don't know if you guys are religious, what type of religious you guys have, but there's always those certain guys that wear tuxedo with suitcase that run around the streets and knock on someone else's door and preach about their God, right? About God and their beliefs and about what their teachings are and try to convert you into their religion, right? Or if not convert you, just plainly wanted to spread the word of God. And some of these people are actually quite good. They have a reason, they believe in it, and it's not really that harmful. But this story is a real life experience or real life account of people in Taal Pulilan, Bulacan, that have experienced something unusual from people that claim to be preachers of God. So let's start with the story, the third and last story for today. The quiet town of Barangay Taal in Pulilan, Bulacan was shattered by an odd sight one Tuesday afternoon. A group of three impeccable dressed in black tuxedos materialized on the corner. We were used to the occasional salesmen, religious groups, but these folks exuded an unsettling air. Intrigued, I peered out my window. The leader, a tall, gaunt man with slicked back hair, held a briefcase. His companions, a woman with an unnerving wide smile and a shorter man who seemed perpetually hunched, flanked him. They approached the gate of my neighborhood. I'm sorry, they approached the gate of my neighbor. Sorry. I was in a trance. Aling Marta, a kind old lady who lived alone. Nosy as ever, I grabbed a cup of coffee and settled on the porch, keeping an eye on the interaction. Okay, so this person that wrote the story kind of like doing the Marites thing. If you're not a Filipino, you don't know what Marites is. Marites is actually a term. It's a name, of course, but it's a term coined for those people that are nosy and always up to no good, listening to other people's business. But this time, I think this nosy neighbor saved this Aling Marta's life. That's just my guess. So let's proceed. So Aling Marta opened the gate cautiously, and her brow furrowed in confusion. The tall man launched into a spiel. His voice was smooth and melodic. He spoke of a higher calling. He spoke? No, I think he spoke. Sorry, he spoke of a higher calling, a divine purpose. Aling Marta's defenses seemed to crumble with each word. An inexplicable urge to step outside washed over me. I ignored it at first, attributing it to my usual curiosity. But as the man reached out, his hand brushing Aling Marta's arm, a jolt of panic shot through me. His eyes glazed over. Her eyes glazed over, a vacant look replacing her usual warmth. It was like watching a puppet on strings. Before I could even think, it was out the door. I was out of the door. I was shouting at Aling Marta's face. She flinched at the sound. I walked in the gate, and I noticed that she was momentarily breaking free of the trance. The leader's visage cracked, a flicker of something cold and reptilian momentarily replacing his practiced smile. I blinked. I thought I was just probably losing it, but my main purpose is to talk to Aling Marta because I felt like this people is trying to seduce or make Aling Marta hallucinate. It kind of looked like that. Her face was just like a puppet, expressionless at the moment that that tall man touched her arms. Regaining his composure, the tall man in black tuxedo turned to me. His voice was dripping with false sweetness. He said, "And who you might be, interrupting our divine mission." I said, "This is my neighbor." I was very steady, a little bit nervous, but I was a bit scared. But I'm pretty much sure that I was very serious at that time, trying to look and give off a steady face. "And you're scaring her." Aling Marta blinked rapidly, like she was confused. The woman with the wide smile took a menacing step closer. But the tall, gaunt guy, held up a hand, silencing her. "Perhaps there has been a misunderstanding," he said. His voice was silky smooth once more. "We shall take our leave and return another time," he said. With that, they retreated down the street. Their movements was oddly fluid, almost like phantoms. Aling Marta and I stared after them. We were shaken, but safe. Later, as we exchanged stories, a wave of terror washed over me. The rumors about the black suits, as they were now called, started swirling. Whispers of stolen baby body parts used for dark rituals, granting invisibility or mind control, fueled our fear. Aling Marta confessed she felt compelled to empty her safe, a trance she barely broke free from. The police investigation hit a dead end. No leads on the black suits, but in our quiet barangay, a sense of unease lingered. We became more vigilant, watching out for each other. The black suits never returned, but their chilling encounter became a stark reminder of a darkness that can lurk in the most unexpected places, disguised in borrowed finery and a seductive facade. Wow. So I kind of heard about this story as well. People who were something was stolen from them and they just realized that it happened without even realizing that it happened, if that makes sense. Some accounts that I've heard in the news, I can't remember, and I tried doing a quick search right now while I was reading it, but nothing really pulls up. I don't have the time. So I just wanted to say this. I've heard about the story about a woman who were talking to a girl and then she didn't realize what happened next. Totally no memory, it was wiped out. But the next day, she learned that all of her savings in her ATM or, not ATM, in her card are all withdrawn. And she inquired in the bank after that, and they pulled out a CCTV footage. It was her with people on her back. And then she, took out the money all by herself in the ATM station and gave it all of the money to the three people that she talked. And there's another CCTV footage that actually shown that these three people just asked for direction. That's what she remember. They approached her while she was I believe it was a trunk that she was like putting all of her groceries in. And she was a middle-aged woman, so looked like fine, has a car. Basically, they thought she would really have money, and she does have money. And what's really unusual is that she gave the money to those people without any fuss, and she doesn't even recognize or remember doing it herself. So it's like these people have a mind control, like they can, control you like a puppet and make you do things to their bidding, which is very scary. It could be possible. I mean, we are working on chips right now with Elon Musk, and in our brain where we can do stuff that we just don't have to work our hands to do it, but with just our brain we can do it. And we may never know that it's actually quite possible for specific people, like telekinetic or mind control abilities. But there are also like people in our province in Mindanao that also mention like this is like a power that they can get. And this the writer also mentioned stolen baby body parts. It's also the same with some of the myths that we have in our province, that they say once you stole a fingernail or a toenail of a baby that was like dead, you know, go to the cemetery. If a baby will be delivered in his or her last place, you can like, get the toenails or fingernails or any parts of that baby, and you will gain power, like invisibility. Like you can just steal and go in other people's places without even their dogs can even hear you or see you. I don't know if it's real though, because we've had the same cases before as well. And personally, this is my experience. In one of the village in Mindanao, and it was like this notorious theft or thief always steal a lot of things in that village, and they can't barely know, like they were just sleeping, and one in the morning they would realize that their appliances and money were all gone, and it was a work of a small kid, and the kid was like rumored to have a small fingernail. Was it a small fingernail, da, of like of a baby, of the kid's younger brother that was, that was buried. So what that kid did is he bit the dead baby's finger off. And if you do that, you will basically, be invisible, or, go and sneak into other people's places without them noticing. I'm not sure if it's true, but that was like the rumor. And I actually just shrug it off because it could have been just like, excuse of mentally sick people, but we may never know. So this story happened in Bulacan. They were all in the Luzon area. Thank you so much. Again, it was like posted in Reddit. I think this one was posted in Reddit. No, it was not. I think it was like I've read it somewhere as well in one of the news in the country. But this type of modus operandi does exist. So very interesting. That's the story for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any stories, again, please send it out to my email in the description box down below. I really appreciate the stories of people sharing in Reddit and all of the other online social platform. And some people that send some emails through me. God bless you guys. Thank you so much for your time, and let's talk again in the next episode. Toodaloo.